This isn't really news, but there is that kind of thing that happens where like weird little tidbits or sound bites of Star Wars trivia will pop up. Apparently, Han Solo almost showed up in Episode 3. This was one of those things that Lucas is playing with the idea of. Brian, what's the story here?
So, Star Wars Episode 3, obviously Revenge of the Sith, widely regarded as the best of the prequel trilogy. You didn't know where I was going there. A lot of people say it's better than Jedi. You're way wrong. It's easily the best of those 3 movies, which aren't the greatest. We'll get into that to another time. They made a lot of strange decisions in those films, a lot of child versions of adult actors that we really didn't need to see, such as Anakin Skywalker. Boba Fett's a big one. Han Solo remarkably got to stay away from those movies.
Yeah.
Very smart of him. It wasn't really his choice.
The prequels would have been really just like a 1-2-3 punch if they were like, Episode 1, here's Darth Vader as a baby.
Right.
Episode 2, here's Boba Fett as a baby. Episode 3, here's Han Solo as a baby. It's just like, you know.
Yeah, so now according to an article on Den of Geek, Han Solo was supposed to appear in an original draft for Episode 3 as a 10-year-old boy living on Kashyyyk, which is Chewbacca's, or the Wookiee planet. And he was an orphan being raised by Wookiees, and that's where we became friends with Chewbacca. They went on cool adventures. He actually has a scene with Yoda, and apparently only has one line in the entire movie. I'm looking it up right now.
A whole scene where he shows up with his one line. Do you know what the line is?
He says, "I found part of a transmitter droid near the East Bay."
So this was, okay.
I think it's still sending and receiving signals.
Wow. So this is going to be like when there's that scene where Greedo makes a cameo in Episode 1 that got cut. But like, how weird would it be to be like, if Episode 1 really had a scene where Darth Vader beats up Greedo as a child, you're like, man, who did that? It's funny, I've been reading this awesome Making of Star Wars book.
Yeah.
It's by J.W. Rinsler and Peter Jackson. It's this massive, awesome book. You can get it in a physical copy, or you can get it on iOS or Android or whatever your device is.
They made one for each of the original trilogy movies, right?
Yeah, I think so. But this is basically on the first Star Wars. I've been reading it on my phone, which is great. It's got videos built into it, which is like one of those first times when it's like, here's an ebook that's actually doing cool stuff, so you get to see weird behind-the-scenes footage. But it's funny because there's a chapter on the first stages of the expanded universe. Like after A New Hope came out, they were like, okay, so this is a runaway success. How do we keep marketing it? The Marvel comics were selling really well, and basically, like, Lucas was in high demand. He wanted to take a break, go on vacation for a minute, but they were like, so can you help us flesh out your world? And there's apparently a series of interviews he did where people asked him questions about characters, and he would role play as those characters. So he sat there in a chair, and they talked to him as though he was Han Solo, and he had the following to say about Han Solo. Basically, he gave his sort of his little biography. He said, Han is around 30 years old. His parents might have been killed in a space battle. With Han as the only survivor, there's no real record about where the space gypsies found him. They run through the galaxy, picking up all sorts of odds and ends. They may have won him in a game. They may have cheated someone out of him and thought they would sell him. He was kind of like a slave. That actually reminds me a lot of how they did Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
You know, like he's kind of like, sort of like buddy-buddy with this, ragtag bunch of pirates, but they're also
Anakin's
like,
mom,
hey, we own you, yeah.
Which was real dark.
Weirder, they actually do talk about the whole, apparently the slaver people abandoned him to the Wookiees when he was about 7 years old, and he lived with them for about 5 years. So like, Lucas was breaking down Han's entire biography, and this has kind of since been like paved over, but it's funny. I love that he goes from space gypsies to living on a planet of Wookiees to going to the Space Academy, and that's where he became a star pilot. And then it keeps going, and he's like, then he went to the planet of Kuni, where he used to herd large animals called pipettas, which have 15 feet. They look something like a giraffe, about 20. And Lucas keeps going about these weird animals. Their meat has an aphrodisiac quality, so they ship it all around the universe.
Wait a minute, so he's got more of an actual backstory for these animals than he does Han Solo.
Yeah, so Han Solo herded aphrodisiac 15-footed giraffe animals for 3 years.
Yeah.
So like it's basically Han Solo's entire work history, resume, background. Really glad that didn't show up in the prequels.
Me too. There's a quote here from Ian McCaig, who's a concept artist on Star Wars. He said, it's not in the script anymore. But we were told that Han Solo was on Kashyyyk and that he was being raised by Chewbacca. He's such a persnickety guy later on. He always has to have the best of everything. So I thought it'd be great when he was a kid if he was an absolute slob. So he's just a real dirty boy rummaging around with those tall dog bears that fly cars with him.
Real junkyard boy.
Yeah, real gross.
Well,
I'm so glad we avoided that.
Yeah.